In ancient Egypt, the civilization's grandeur was built upon the labor of countless slaves. The Nile's fertile soil allowed Egypt to thrive, with monumental constructions like the pyramids and temples symbolizing the kingdom's power and wealth. However, this prosperity was sustained by a system of exploitation, where slaves were indispensable to the empire's infrastructure and economy. The Egyptians had acquired slaves through warfare, trade, and conquest. They were forced into various labor roles, from working in the mines and quarries to constructing massive architectural feats. While the elite lived in opulent palaces, slaves labored under harsh conditions, often subjected to brutal punishment and minimal provisions. Among these slaves were individuals from different backgrounds, including prisoners of war, foreign captives, and even debtors. The harsh realities of their existence planted seeds of resentment and defiance, leading to several notable slave revolts throughout Egypt's history. One of the earliest recorded slave revolts in Egypt occurred during the reign of Pharaoh Amenemhat II of the Middle Kingdom, around 2000 BCE. This uprising was sparked by the dire conditions faced by slaves working in the mines of the eastern desert. The leader of this revolt was a formidable slave named Horemheb, who had been a high-ranking military officer before being captured. Horemheb, fueled by both personal grievances and a sense of justice, rallied a group of disgruntled slaves. They organized a series of attacks on their overseers, seizing control of several mining camps. Initially, the rebels achieved a series of victories, disrupting the supply of precious metals to the Egyptian state. However, the revolt was brutally suppressed by Pharaoh Amenemhat II, who ordered a military campaign to quell the insurrection. The leaders of the rebellion were captured and executed, and the remaining slaves were subjected to even harsher conditions as a warning to others. The next significant slave revolt occurred during the Second Intermediate Period, when the Hyksos, a Semitic people from the Near East, ruled parts of Egypt. The Hyksos established their own dynasty and controlled a significant portion of the Nile Delta. The Hyksos regime was characterized by tension and exploitation, as they relied heavily on enslaved Egyptians to maintain their control over the land. The enslaved Egyptians, subjected to foreign rule, grew increasingly resentful. The Hyksos period saw numerous smaller-scale revolts, but one major uprising was led by an Egyptian named Kamudi. Kamudi, once a prominent official, had been reduced to slavery under the Hyksos. He led a rebellion against the Hyksos rulers, rallying other enslaved Egyptians and discontented locals. Despite initial successes, Kamudi's revolt faced strong resistance from the Hyksos forces. Eventually, the revolt was crushed and the survivors were either executed or severely punished. The suppression of this rebellion further entrenched the harsh treatment of slaves under Hyksos rule. The most famous slave revolt in ancient Egypt occurred during the reign of Ramses III of the New Kingdom, around 1150 BCE. This revolt is known as the Revolt of the Sea Peoples, a massive uprising involving slaves and foreign mercenaries. The Sea Peoples were a confederation of maritime raiders who had been wreaking havoc along the Mediterranean coast. Many of these raiders were enslaved by the Egyptians, who forced them into labor and military service. Over time, tensions between the Egyptians and the Sea Peoples grew, leading to a large-scale revolt. The leader of this rebellion was a former Sea Peoples chieftain named Amunire. Amunire, a charismatic and strategic leader, united the various factions of enslaved Sea Peoples and Egyptians. They launched coordinated attacks on Egyptian settlements, targeting supply lines and weakening the central authority. Ramses III, known for his military prowess, responded to the revolt with a series of countermeasures. He fortified his cities, deployed elite troops, and conducted a series of campaigns to suppress the rebellion. The struggle was fierce and prolonged, with several battles fought along the Nile and in the Delta. Eventually, Ramses III's forces managed to defeat the rebels, but not without significant losses. Amunire was captured and executed, and the surviving rebels were either killed or enslaved. The revolt had a lasting impact on Egypt, leading to reforms in the treatment of slaves and military tactics. The aftermath of the slave revolts saw changes in Egypt's approach to managing its labor force. In the wake of the significant uprisings, the Egyptian administration implemented several reforms aimed at improving the conditions of slaves and reducing the likelihood of future revolts. Pharaohs recognized that the harsh treatment of slaves and the lack of adequate provisions contributed to unrest. Reforms included better management of labor resources, improved living conditions, and increased wages for certain types of labor. Additionally, there was a shift towards employing more foreign labor and mercenaries to lessen the reliance on enslaved Egyptians. The revolt during Ramses III's reign had a particularly profound effect on the Egyptian psyche. It highlighted the dangers of relying too heavily on enslaved populations and led to a re-evaluation of Egypt's labor practices. The pharaohs sought to balance their need for labor with the necessity of maintaining social order. The legacy of the slave revolts in ancient Egypt endured long after the events themselves. The uprisings had a significant impact on Egyptian society and governance, influencing subsequent rulers and shaping the treatment of slaves. The stories of the revolts became part of the historical narrative, serving as cautionary tales about the dangers of oppression and exploitation. They were recorded in texts and inscriptions, ensuring that future generations would remember the struggles and the lessons learned from these conflicts. The revolts also contributed to the broader discourse on labor and slavery in the ancient world. They illustrated the complexities of managing large labor forces and the potential consequences of neglecting the welfare of workers. The revolts highlighted the need for fair treatment and humane practices, influencing the policies and practices of subsequent civilizations. The struggle of slaves in ancient Egypt offers valuable insights into the dynamics of power and resistance. The revolts demonstrated the resilience and agency of those who were oppressed, showing that even in the face of severe adversity, individuals and groups could challenge the status quo. The revolts also highlighted the ethical and moral questions surrounding slavery and labor exploitation. They prompted a re-examination of the social and economic systems that allowed such exploitation to occur. The lessons learned from these historical events continue to resonate, reminding us of the importance of justice, equality, and respect for all individuals. In examining the struggles of slaves in ancient Egypt, we gain a deeper understanding of the human capacity for resilience and the enduring quest for freedom and dignity. The revolts serve as a testament to the enduring spirit of resistance and the ongoing fight for justice in the face of oppression. The echoes of the slave revolts in ancient Egypt remind us of the timeless struggle for justice and equality. The stories of Horemheb, Kamudi, Amunire, and countless others who resisted oppression are woven into the fabric of history, offering lessons and reflections for future generations. As we look back on these events, we recognize the importance of addressing social injustices and working towards a more equitable and humane world. The legacy of the revolt serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring quest for freedom and dignity.